my research, I found out that different conventions can attract different audiences for different genres through colour schemes, images, layout, attitude and language. For example, if a magazine was targeting a female pop audience, they may use bright pinks and black bold fonts for the mastheads to contrast and give a feminine effect. There may also be more splash heads, buzzwords and bleed lines in a magazine aimed at women, as it would need to be busier and more detailed so as to match the women's busy lifestyle. Most real media products use extreme colour schemes, such as contrasting vibrant reds or greens with black to target a rock audience with an aggressive attitude or style of music. Because my product was aimed more at mixed genre audience, I used a more neutral colour scheme in order to attract the classic rock, modern rock and indie music fans with deep oranges and warm colours. My masthead conformed to the usual style of a media product by centering it at the top middle of the page and using bright bold lettering to help the audience recognise it and help the magazine be successfully represented by it. I also used more vibrant effects on my masthead in order to make it stand out and appeal to the audience and its classic indie style. I used a strapline across the bottom of my front page with a blurred, darkened effect on it where I listed different bands featured in the magazine, ranging from the classic rock to the modern alternative. I also contrasted this with a vibrant red graphic to introduce connotations of modern rock and combine them with a warmer, more neutral indie style of oranges and browns. I used a plug across the top of the screen with the same modern rock effect, with the harsh contrast of a black and red to connote aggression among the neutral colouring to show a mix in the target audience and genre. My central image used a direct mode of address in a non-aggressive way in order to attract its target audience or portray teenagers as more calm and collected, as other media forms otherwise say. I used images of males playing instruments or with tattoos on my front cover, along with the anchorage text about gig venues or articles inside that would be specifically suited to the audience, with the quote, "Which tattoo would suit you?" By doing this, I could attract the adolescent male audience, as the images showed a character that they would aspire to be: talented, successful, and shown through the playing of instruments and stylish or mature nature by having a tattoo. The image of a tattoo also portrays rebellion. My magazine presented teenagers and adults as two combined generations when it came to the music interests, as I was aiming to fill the gap in the market where there was no product that caters for the younger audiences that may be interested in older music. In order to do this, I need to represent teenagers as a less threatening generation, so as not to alienate the older generation. I did this by keeping their poses calm, but still dressing them in clothes suggesting the style of rock, so as to maintain the interest of my younger audience. For example, the 16-year-old girl at the front cover was not pulling any aggressive poses, but still set an example of how the target audience may aspire to be. I also made the older characters featured in my magazine appear as figures of authority over music, who are knowledgeable about the music industry and have gotten where they want to be. This helped to include the older audience and not alienate the younger audience, as they can still look up to these figures. I achieved this by using older characters with stylized classic rock clothes such as scruffy white shirt and a black tie, or a top with a scratched text and an image of a guitar or famous artist on, like the front cover image and the image on the contents page. Also, the characters are pictured with a famous person that the younger generation might look up to. I use quite stereotypical approach when portraying other genres of music in my contents. For example, hip-hop, section, sal. This refers to the pop and hip-hop as a lesser genre, as most magazines do, and separates the 14 to 30-year-old hip-hop fans from the 14-plus classic rock and alternative music fans. This was more of a teenage magazine language technique, and so it helped to target and interest the younger audience in the magazine, even if it features older music, as it specifically caters to the interest of them. While choosing images for my magazine, I used a mix of males and females from age groups from 16 upwards in order to attract a wider audience and illustrate that the magazine was for teenagers who are open-minded to classic rock, and perhaps have more of a professional interest in music. The poses of my models were all calm and less confrontational than those of pure rock magazines. This helped not to alienate the older audience by showing aggression, introducing an adolescent style or attitude, or offending them. By using big names like Bruce Springsteen to feature in my magazine, I was specifically aiming the magazine at an audience with a musical authority and a professional outlook on the topic. I think that I think that IPC Publishing House would distribute my magazine as their magazines are usually catered for a more niche audience where specific needs and desire with I think IPC Publishing House would distribute my magazine as their magazines are usually catered for a more niche audience with specific needs and desires. An example of this is Guitar and Bass magazine, as it is aimed at a specific audience with a more technical interest in music, and therefore provides contents of a higher level to suit them. My magazine caters towards an audience with a more knowledgeable outlook on music, which take the interest to a more professional level, and so IPC would be ideal for this. Bauer Publishing usually caters to a more mainstream audience, and also because Bauer has distributed rock magazines such as Kerrang, I thought it would be better to go for competition with them, as my magazine caters to all genres of alternative music, from indie or classic rock to screamo, and therefore targets a wider audience of rock. The audience for my product would be very wide in terms of age and genre. The audience for my product would be very wide in terms of age and gender, as I made it suitable for males or females from 14 plus by using a mix of language, character representation, colour schemes and images that would be suitable for all of them. However, the audience I catered to would be more musical lifestyle, as they would need to have a specific knowledge of music on professional terms, and therefore they may be musical themselves, know a lot about the music industry, or work or study in it. I have chosen this group as I found there was a gap in the market for the audience with a professional interest in music that allows for the interest of a younger age groups as well as older, and includes classic rock such as the Rolling Stones alongside modern bands like Ena Shikari. I thought that by combining classic names and modern bands, adjusting the language, appearance and representation of the magazines and making it suitable for the wider age group, that this gap would be filled by my product. Because my target audience could be any gender from 14 plus years, in order to attract my audience, I used images of people singing or playing instruments throughout, as it seemed the most suitable, and also created a sense of style and talent around the magazine, which also catered towards the knowledge of the music that the target audience would have. During my audience research, most answered that pictures of instruments and gig venues should be most impressive, as it would show fame and talent and therefore attract the younger audience too, as this is something that most adolescents interested in music aspire towards. Another way of attracting my younger audience was using a young character with tattoos to feature in the magazine. It is a common image that most teenage males desire. However, I kept the model's posture calm and without aggression so as to not alienate the older audience. By using a mixture of females and males of all ages, I created connotations of a homogeneous community with a specific interest in music by showing diversity. Throughout my magazine, I used a continuous colour scheme of neutral reds, oranges, blacks and greens. These brought connotations of summer and classic indie rock music such as the Beatles, which helped define the genre. I also used torn edges effects on some of the text and colouring so as to add a stylised effect of rock and combine it with the classic indie genre. This helped to widen my audience further, as a mix of different styles is not usually seen in music genres. I tried to fill the gap in the market where there is no product that caters towards a younger audience that prefers older, classic rock, as there is currently no product that aim specifically to this audience at a professional level. By doing so, I filled the magazine with contents of mixture of classic and modern rock and upcoming bands so as to fulfill these requirements for the audience. I also had to derive a new colour scheme and character representation in order to make it suitable for both generations, all of the genres of music, and both genders, by making the characters appear stylish but not threatening, and the colour scheme neutral but still original and fashionable. I used an Apple Mac computer, Photoshop, InDesign and the internet when producing my product. I learned how to edit pictures through contrast and brightness, like the images before and after, which helped me when I needed to make pictures clearer that had been taken in a dark gig venue. Also, by altering the contrast and brightness of my images, I made them stand out more and have more vibrancy, which helped to draw attention to the contents of the magazine and generate interest about what the images may be from. I learned how to use InDesign to structure the layout of my product, which helped me to create conventional magazine pages with a typical layout, particularly with my double-page spread. I learned how to add layers and effects to text in order to produce a unique and bold masthead, which helped bring the magazine into a specific classic indie rock genre through the style and colour scheme. I use the internet when researching my audience and also when producing the product. All of these technologies tied in together in order to make the product. I used InDesign to style the layout and then put the layout onto Photoshop, where I added effects and edited the images. I have learnt the importance of audience research and now realise that a media product should always be investigated and the target audience should always be analysed before production. By doing this, a more effective product can be produced that caters specifically to a target audience and will therefore sell well, as it is exactly what the audience desires and how they prefer it to be. I also learnt that how to appeal to the target audience with different colour schemes, styles and images through creating different connotations with them. For example, red and black can attract a rock audience. I learnt how context could appeal to the audience through language and attitude, for example using vulgarisms for a younger audience and featuring people playing instruments for a sense of style and fashion. I learnt about the uses and gratification theory, that the audience will only use a product if it fulfills any of these needs: diversion, personal relationships, personal identity, surveillance and entertainment. I then learnt how to apply these uses through content, appearance, layout and representation by altering the colours, attitudes and language. I learnt about the layouts and conventions of a typical magazine and their purposes and importance. I also learnt to meet deadlines more efficiently. When making my previous media product, I did not research into the audience enough, and so it did not target them effectively. The colour scheme was too bland for a teenage audience, and the splash head, bleed lines and masthead did not give the right connotations or interest for a young audience. Also, the characters I used were not represented in a way that the audience would aspire to be, and so there was no desire to read the magazine. In the production of my first media project, there was no planning in the form of flat plans, sketches or genre research, which meant that the product was not thought out and was very messy. When making my second media product, I made sure that the audience was thoroughly researched so that I knew what kinds of colours, images, attitudes and styles would attract them. This led me to using characters with more iconic clothes, poses and attitudes, colour schemes with more vibrancy and detail and images of particular objects the audience may desire, such as guitars. Producing sketches and flat plans of the final and draft products helped me to plan my products and think about how I could effectively target the audience. I also use buzzwords such as win and exclusive in form of interviews and information about gig venues throughout, as these are the types of topics that would draw attention of my readers according to the audience research.